Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com, and in this video what I want to talk about is iterators and creating custom iterators. So what does the term iterate mean? Generally, the shorthand is when you see the word iterate or to iterate in coding, it just means to loop, and iteration just means looping, and an iterator is something you can loop over. Okay, so in JavaScript, there are several things that are iterable. Okay, there are iterators, meaning you can loop over them. So, for example, let me just make a file here. I'll call it it.js. Okay, like an array. Const r equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, a map. Const. Actually, let's do a set first. Equals new set, and a set is again just basically an array without duplicates. So if I were to do 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, the actual set's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. It's just a array or a collection of the unique elements. And const map equals new map. And let me just add a few properties to that map. So map.set cheese Gouda. So I'm setting values. It's kind of like a map's kind of like an object, except you have to kind of individually set the keys and values. And the keys could be something other than a string, so you can actually make them like a number or all sorts of cool things. And the keys actually have like an order. So the fact that I added cheese Gouda first means cheese is always going to be the first key, and this next key bread will always be the second key. So when I loop over it, they'll loop in that order. Okay, that's kind of how this works. Okay, bread, and that's going to be rye. So that should probably go in the parentheses. Okay, and then basically you can tell something's an iterator. If something is iterable, I can use a for of loop against it. For it, because basically the for of loop, all it does is just use the iterating feature of the object type. So I can be like for, okay, we'll just start with x of r, and let's console log x, which should be all the items in that array. Okay, then we'll do for y of set. Okay, which will console.log y. Okay, just end up being all the items in that set, which should be 1, 2, 3, 4. And for z of map, console.log z, this should just end up, I always forget if it iterates over the keys or the values or both. Let's see what we get. It might just pass you like an array with the key and the value. That might be what it is. Cool, so let's see here. Now, let's see here. What do I want to do? Oh, I want to run the file. Node it.js. And I got an error, so let's take a look. New set is not a constructor. Oh, wait. I should have put a parentheses here. Oop. There we go. That should fix it. There we go. So you can see here, first is the array. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then see the set is 1, 2, 3, 4, no duplicates, because again, a set removes duplicates. And then, yeah, it prints arrays with the keys and the values. Because this is essentially what a map is. It's just basically an array of arrays, and then it finds the right array based on the key you pass in. Okay, cool. So that is that. So those are iterables. There's other iterables, like there's like a node collection and a bunch of other ideas, but you get the concept. The idea is I can loop over them. Now if I were to create an object, const obj equals, and then I just do the same thing with like cheese and bread. So we have a cheese key, which equals Gouda, and then a bread key that equals rye. I should not be able to loop over that. So for a of obj if I console.log a, this will fail. See? Because why? An object is not an iterable. So objects, pure objects are not iterable. The reason is because everything in JavaScript is an object. Essentially, like, if I understand correctly under the hood, like, objects are just a class. It's just basically a custom, like, C++ class. Well, depending on, like, which runtime you're talking about. But essentially, it's just a class that implements the whole sort of prototype pattern. And then basically, objects can be like prototypes of each other. It just has all that functionality in it. And an array is just a JavaScript object at the end of the day. Same thing with sets and maps, and well, they're just JavaScript objects. The difference is what makes them iterable is they implement two methods. Okay, so for anything to be iterable, that for loop is expecting there to be two methods built in. Okay, so like let's do our own custom iterable. Okay, const it equals, we're gonna have an object. We're gonna have like an array inside of it. Const, not const. Okay, we'll just say underscore data. We'll put this in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Now basically, for this to be iterable, for this object to be loopable, it has to have basically a method called that implements this iterator. So basically, there's this symbol, and if you're not familiar with the symbol object, the symbol allows you just to create like this unique thing. Okay, you can save it in a variable, but the idea is that under the hood, it's a sort of like unique object that cannot be duplicated. And the benefit of having that is like you can use it for like keys and values, so that way you don't have to like eat up names. So instead of actually having to use the word iterator, because maybe you would want to use the word iterator for some library use, or maybe there was some sort of library that already used the word iterator, they built in a custom symbol into the symbol object. Okay, so you see Symbol.iterator, and there's a bunch of other ones. Okay, like if you're doing implementing other features or customizing other features in JavaScript. So a lot of the features, they're customized by the objects under the hood having in their ultimate prototype having these keys that are symbols. And the reason why, again, the reason why is so that way they're not using the word iterator or async iterator and preventing you from using it in your code. So the symbol iterator is really a variable that holds a unique object that is used as the key for iterators, for the iterator function. Okay, so what I need to do is define this method, which I think it's supposed to just be like function, and then generally what you do is you return this. The idea is that this object is sort of what you iterate over. Okay, so when it's iterating, the context is this object. You could pass it something else. You can say, hey, when you iterate over this object, it's referring to this thing or that thing. But that's essentially what it's referring to. Now, the way iteration works, if you ever worked with a generator function, just to quickly like show you, so let me just comment this out. Well, actually, I can just not comment. Function gen or get gen, and then what you do is equals function, I think the asterisk goes at the end, function is it supposed to go at the beginning? Why don't you like it? Oh, because I wrote the function over there. Blur. I'm using the function keyword already. Okay. So it should be like function getGen. You can tell it just woke up. As usually the case with most of these videos, I do them like when I wake up around like around 7. I take a nap again for a couple hours, and then around like 8, 9 o'clock I start making videos. Cool. getGen. So basically this asterisk here makes this a generator function, and the way the generator function works is that you use this next function. So I can say next 1, next 2, next 3. Okay, and then if I did this, the generator function always returns a generator. So if I were to do const get gen, or no, const generator equals get gen, I would then have this generator that basically, when it loops, it kind of basically I can iterate over the generator. So I could do for x of generator. Pretty sure I can do this. Console.log x. And what's going to happen is I'm going to get 1, 2, 3. I'm going to get all these nexes. These nex represents like the steps that it takes when you iterate over the function. Did it like that? No, nex is not defined. Oh, that's right. You have to pass in nex over here. Okay. Is that correct? Oh no, it's yield. My bad. It's not yield. Next, yield is what the next function returns. So that's the terminology I'm looking for. There we go. And see, like when I loop over it, I get 1, 2, 3. Okay. So essentially, yield is just sort of the counterpart to next. So under the hood, this generator, basically what happens when you use the generator, you can use this word next. So I can be like, okay, generator dot next, and then what happens, that returns an object that has a key called value. Okay, and then I can access that key. So let's console log it. And see, I end up getting the same thing. I'm just consolating the next value. So what I have to do is define how the next function works. Like, how does it go and grab the next value? So that's essentially what I'm doing up here. Okay, we'll come back to generators, but essentially that's what a generator is. It's a kind of a fun way to kind of create a step-by-step. You could actually literally, instead of creating a next function, you could just pass in a generator function, and then that would do the trick for the iterator. But I'm going to implement next. Okay, so I'm going to implement next. And essentially what we need to do is, again, you're going to have to yield things. Okay, so basically I could just loop over data. So for this, for x of this dot underscore data. Okay, yield x. Okay, and then I think that should do it. Actually, it's not yield x. It's going to be like yield. You have to return an object, and the object has to have a value. A value of a value of what the thing you're trying to return, and then also like a done property, and the done is supposed to be either like true or false. So basically, true would mean it's you're done. Let me think about that for a second. Oh, let's just do it and see what happens. True, and then why doesn't it like that? Yield object for value x for x of this data. Let's just rewrite that. Okay, so we got that. Yield. Let me look at the example of the iterator, custom iterator. Function yield 1, 2, 2. We're gonna go back over here. Next function first. So like here's an example. So like here we're saying return first. This first equals false. Done. True. Okay. So maybe what I would do is I would do this as, let's reformat that. Let's just do it as like r, or this underscore data. We'll do it as a for each. dot for each. Okay. And then we'll have the item and the index. Okay, now if index equals this dot underscore data dot length -1. So basically, if we got to the end of the array, then we will return. Let me just see here. Is it returning in that function? Yeah. So in that case, we would have to return value item done true. Else value item done false. Okay, and that's going to be, that should be an object. So let's put that in curly brackets and let's return that object. Okay, why doesn't it like that now? Return. Oh, because this is supposed to be, oh, because the else should be down here. Control X. There we go. Cool. Okay, and that is good theoretically. So if it works, I should be able to do this. For x of it. Okay, console.log x. So I should get 1 through 6. Okay, because even though I'm looping over the object, not the array, I'm instructing it that, hey, when you loop over this object, loop over that array that's inside the object. Iterator result undefined is not an object. How did we get that? If index, why does it say index is not used? Interesting. Item index. I wonder if I get rid of these parentheses. I don't think I need these. Let me ponder on this one for a second, because we see here, it looks like that key is unused. Let's try to understand why. Console.log index save. Okay, so it is running up to the 6 point. So then what happens is that when index, so when it gets to 6 and the index is 5, okay, it's running an error. Let's think about why. Done false. It's returning undefined, but why? Index equals, I mean, for some reason it's not taking that as the right index. So here's what we're doing. Just say const I equals index, and then put I here. Does that light up that? And this does not light up, as if it's in a separate execution contest, which is a little confusing. But let's make sure that we fix that. Okay, there we go, equality. Okay, so it doesn't kind of like it. Let's console log I and make sure I is what we think it is. Iterator result undefined is not an object. Okay, let's see here. Let me go look at the example again. Okay, so here we go. Symbol.iterator, return. Oh, I see. The iterator function is supposed to be returning an object with the next function. Ah. Okay, and this is going to refer to this object that the iterator is looping over. Oh, I totally read that wrong. Okay, so let's just let me remove that around. So I'm going to take this method, Control X, and essentially what's going to happen is that this, although I am returning this, so if I'm implementing the next method on this, that's fine, because I'm returning this, so next is in the object. So that is fine. So technically that should still work. We're fine. Well, let me take a look at how that next function return this underscore first. It's returning the object, yeah. Oh, and the last time it's returning true. Okay, so then technically what I would want to do is, let's do it this way then. Return value, the item, and done true. Let me make sure, are they returning true? Okay, oh, done true, and then after the loop, okay, after the loop, then we would return oh, but the thing is that this is not a generator function anymore, so it's not necessarily looping through each item. Something to think about. Okay, so just to kind of make sure everyone's on the same page, basically the reason why this doesn't work currently is because, again, this function is going to just run every time the thing iterates. So since it's not a generator function, it doesn't continue where the last run of next left off. So I have to think of a way to kind of make this work regardless of how many times you hit next. Okay, and essentially the way you would do that is, let's see here. What I'd want to do then is we would add a property called step, which will start off at 0. Okay, and then what's going to happen is if this dot step equals this dot data dot length, so basically if the step equals the length of the array, which means we have no more items left, then we're going to return no value and just say that this is done. You're done iterating. Okay, else, okay, then, okay, and then actually return done, and actually I want to reset step to 0 so you can iterate over the object again. So then this dot step is reset to 0. Okay, and then else, what we would want to do is then just return this, the value we want to return is this underscore data, this dot underscore data, this dot step is the index, and done, false. It's not done yet. Okay, I think now we got it. So let's try this out again. Okay, well, it always return. Oh, I got an infinite loop. Now let's see. Let's think about that. So it is giving me 1 the first time. So the first time, next is running, and it returns this data, this step, done, false. And then theoretically, it's supposed to. Oh, but I don't increase step. That is the issue. Okay, so before I return anything, what I want to do is this dot step plus equals 1. I wasn't incrementing step. That was the issue. Let's try that again. And see it works, except the last time we are returning an undefined value. So then probably what we're going to do is we're going to adjust this. I'm going to say it if equals -1. Okay, so that means when we get to the end of the array and we get to the last item, you'll still return that last item. So what I'm going to do is actually grab the item first. So I'm going to say, the reason being is because I'm about to change this dot step, so I want to grab the value before I change this dot step. Okay, and then put value in here. Like so, and now let's try it out. Okay, wonderful. I just recreated an array. The point though, okay, oh, it starts on, it's actually starting on 2. Okay, now here's why. Because I'm incrementing before, so what I want to do is once, like I did here, get the value before I change step. So I would want to do this. Let's just make that one last adjustment, and then I think now we got it. Okay. And there you go. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's still not ideal. So we gain the 5th one. So let's see here. On 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But there's 6. So we're saying 0. And then the next one is 2, 3. Going into it. This dot step equals this dot data dot length. Equals this dot data dot length minus 1. So it's not giving me that last 6. Oh, I was fine before. It's just that I'm console logging. No, that's still weird. Let's see here. Let's get to the bottom of this because I want to have this right. So yeah, well, you can inspect the code. Console.log. This dot step. So again, I just want to see what happens when we get to that point in the loop. Okay, and I get 5. Value equals this data, this dot step. But technically at index 5, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I should be getting 6. This dot underscore data. So why would, it is getting to that last one, but not returning the value. But the other way we ended up with undefined. So we get 0, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, because I was incrementing it before. So before I had it right. Okay. Let's go back. Oh, that's fine. And this should be this dot data dot length. So that's the thing. Then we're going to return nothing. Just untrue. Otherwise, I'm going to do this thing again right here. And this becomes this right here. And we'll walk through that one more time. And there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Awesome. See, all that to just basically do what an array does. Okay, but essentially what's happening is that when it loops over it, so when I say, hey, loop over it, this iterator function returns, and it's returning the object itself. Okay, it just has to return an object. It doesn't have to necessarily return the object itself. Could be another object. But whatever object it returns, it has to have this next method on it. But since this has a next method, that works too. Okay, so then what happens is that it runs the next method to get the first value. So whatever it returns is the first value. And then it just keeps looping. Okay, so it just keeps hitting next. And since I'm editing this step variable each time I hit next, I'm able to do the next one. Now that's all fine and good. I could have done this in a lot easier way. So if I were to copy this over and we'll make it it2, the sequel, you could also just use a generator function. So I could have just like simplified all this. Okay, let's just go all the way back to here. Okay, and basically made this a generator function. And then in this case, I could have just said, okay, for, you know, x of underscore data yield yield x. Okay, and this is essentially because again the generator function already has basic generator function already does what you want it to do. It returns an object, the generator object, as you saw earlier, and that object already has the next method implemented. So all you're doing is just defining the method. So this is like the easier way of doing it. You can just use the generator to create that custom iterator much easier. Okay, and then you don't have to necessarily like go through all that machinations of implementing next. And then this does the same thing. So if I were to do this, Control X for it2. Okay, we got an error, but let's just see here. Data is not defined. For function, oh, it's this.data. Blur. This.data. Okay, and see, it works. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so see here, this implementation of a custom iterator is a lot more straightforward than this implementation of a custom iterator, unless you have some really custom logic that you need to run through here. Like basically, like it's not just this straightforward sort of like next through several steps isn't going to work for you. I mean, in this case, for some reason, even the way the generator iterates isn't going to do what you need it to do. But at the end of the day, like I would say, like 90% of the time, you won't need custom iterators unless you're creating something really unique, which doesn't really be based on your application. Like a couple things I can think of is maybe you have an object that takes multiple arrays. Like maybe you have a, you know, array of like that generates random teams from like an array of coaches and players. Okay, and then you want to customize the iterating behavior between like coach and players. So you want to sit there and say, okay, iterate over one coach and then assign it like 10 players and then, you know, create this. But you could just create a function that does the same thing. So like I would say, like how often you'd use this is rare unless you're really kind of trying to implement some new data structure in a library. So you're trying to create some sort of abstraction for other developers. Otherwise, if you're just doing it for yourself, there's no need for you to kind of go through these machinations for yourself. You could either just use the existing iterators and then do like a custom function. And even if you were creating a library, you could do a custom function. But if you really wanted to kind of make the abstraction feel like native and feel like it's built into the language, you could use a custom iterator to kind of create something that has that feel. But yeah, that's essentially how this works. That's how custom iterators work. Essentially, you just have to have this method, iterator built in. Iterator needs to return an object. That object needs to have a next method on it. And that's essentially what it's going to use to do it. But again, a generator function kind of does a lot of that boilerplate for you. So if your symbol iterator is just a generator function itself, you've already done 90% of the work, and then you can just focus on the logic, the iteration logic, instead of focusing on implementing next. So my name is Alex Merced from alexmercedcode.com. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. I'll see y'all later. Have a great day and enjoy.